How animal can predict natural disasters. In 2004, a tsunami triggered by a 9.1 magnitude undersea quake off Indonesia decimated coastal communities around the Indian Ocean, killing at least 225,000 people across a dozen countries. The huge death toll was in part caused by the fact that many communities received no warning. Local man-made early warning systems, such as tidal and earthquake sensors, failed to raise any clear alert. Many sensors were out of action due to maintenance issues, while many coastal areas lacked any tsunami siren warning systems. Haphazard communication also failed to provide warnings, with many text messages failing to reach mobiles in threatened areas or going unread. Yet in the minutes and hours before surging walls of water up to 9 meters, 30 feet, high smashed through coastlines, some animals seemed to sense impending peril and make efforts to flee. According to eyewitness accounts, elephants ran for higher ground, flamingos abandoned low-lying nesting areas, and dogs refused to go outdoors. In the coastal village of Bang Khoi in Thailand, locals reported a herd of buffalo by the beach, suddenly pricking their ears, gazing out to sea, then stampeding to the top of a nearby hill a few minutes before the tsunami struck. Survivors also reported seeing animals, such as cows, goats, cats, and birds, deliberately moving inland shortly after the earthquake and before the tsunami came, says Irina Rafliana, previously part of an advisory group for the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Risk, UNISDR, and now a researcher at the German Development Institute in Bonn. Many of those who survived ran along with these animals or immediately after. Rafliana recounts similar stories tied to her fieldwork around other disasters, such as the 2010 tsunami generated by a subsea quake near Sumatra, which killed nearly 500 people on the Mentawai Islands. Here too, however, some animals, such as elephants, were reported to have responded as if possessing some kind of early knowledge of the event. Just days ago, a newly re-released turtle made a sudden U-turn 2 days before January's volcanic eruption in Tonga. Early warning systems do not exist in many areas struck regularly by natural disasters. In 2017, the World Meteorological Organization found that the governments of around 100 countries still lack early warning systems for natural disasters to which they were prone. However, these accounts about animal behavior before disasters have prompted some researchers to devote serious scientific attention to the theory that animals may have inbuilt systems that alert them to impending natural disasters. It raises an intriguing question. Could animals provide natural early warning systems for humans? Survivors also reported seeing animals, such as cows, goats, cats, and birds, deliberately moving inland shortly after the earthquake and before the tsunami came. Irina Rafliana. The earliest recorded reference to unusual animal behavior prior to a natural disaster dates back to 373 BC, when the Greek historian Thucydides reported rats, dogs, snakes, and weasels deserting the city of Hellas in the days before a catastrophic earthquake. Other reports dot history. Minutes before the Naples quake of 1805, oxen, sheep, dogs, and geese supposedly started making alarm calls in unison, while horses were said to have run off in panic just prior to the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. Even with advanced technology, it can be difficult to detect many kinds of impending natural disasters. In the case of earthquakes, for example, seismic sensors lurch into jolted squiggles only as the earth-juddering shocks are actually happening. Making reliable predictions requires precursor signals, and as yet, scientists haven't found any signals that seem to occur consistently before big quakes. Hence the growing willingness of some scientists to consider more unorthodox warning signals, such as animal behavior. Even with all the technology available today, we are not able to properly predict earthquakes or most natural catastrophes, says Charlotte Francesias, leader of an ornithological team at the French Biodiversity Office, OFB, and part of the Kiwi Quokka project, which is examining how migratory birds crossing the Pacific seem able to dodge storms and other hazards. One of the most important investigations into how animals could predict disasters was carried out 5 years ago by a team led by Martin Michalski from the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior in Germany. The study involved recording the movement patterns of different animals, cows, sheep, and dogs, a process known as biologging, on a farm in the earthquake-prone region of the Marches in central Italy. Collars with chips were attached to each animal, which sent movement data to a central computer every few minutes between October 2016 and April 2017. During this period, official statistics recorded over 18,000 quakes in the region, from tiny tremors measuring just 0.4 magnitude up to a dozen quakes notching 4 or above, including the devastating magnitude 6.6 magnitude Nausea earthquake. The researchers found evidence that the farm animals began to change their behavior up to 20 hours before an earthquake. Whenever the monitored farm animals were collectively 50% more active for more than 45 minutes at a stretch, the researchers predicted an earthquake with a magnitude above 4.0. 7 out of 8 strong earthquakes were correctly predicted in this way. The closer the animals were to the epicenter of the impending shock, the earlier they changed their behavior, Wycholski said in 2020 when the study was released. This is exactly what you would expect when physical changes occur more frequently at the epicenter of the impending earthquake and become weaker with increasing distance. Another study carried out by Wycholski monitoring the movements of tardigrade goats on the volcanic slopes of Mount Etna in Sicily also found the animals seemed to have an advanced sense of when Etna was going to burst into life. Over in South America, behavioral ecologist Rachel Grant, now at London South Bank University, has found similar results. She carried out biologging of animal movement patterns using motion-triggered cameras inside Yanachaca National Park in the Peruvian Andes over a period that included the magnitude 7.0 Contamana earthquake in 2011. The number of animals recorded on the camera traps started to decrease about 23 days before the earthquake, with the decrease accelerating 8 days prior to the earthquake, Grant said in her 2015-page paper on the research. On days 10, 6, 5, 3, and 2 prior to the earthquake, and on the day of the earthquake, no animal movements were recorded, which is highly unusual. Crucially, Grant also found evidence of what might be triggering the changes in local animal behavior, in the shape of a series of strong perturbations in local atmospheric electric charges every 2 to 4 minutes, starting 2 weeks before the earthquake. A particularly large fluctuation was recorded around 8 days before the Contamana earthquake, coinciding with the start of the second stage of the animals disappearing from view. Even with all the technology available today, we are not able to properly predict earthquakes or most natural catastrophes. Charlotte Francesias. Scientists are now exploring whether these electromagnetic perturbations in the atmosphere prior to earthquakes could be a warning sign of impending quakes that animals may be sensing. Earthquakes are invariably preceded by a period when severe stresses arise in deep rock, stresses known to create electronic charges called positive holes. These highly mobile electronic charge carriers can flow quickly from the crust to the Earth's surface, where they ionize air molecules above where they appear. Such ionization has been noted prior to quakes across the globe. As these positive holes flow, they also generate ultra-low frequency electromagnetic waves, providing an additional signal that some animals may be able to pick up. Earthquake precursors aren't well documented scientifically, says Matthew Blackett, associate professor in physical geography and natural hazards at Coventry University. But some scientists theorize that animals could have evolved a seismic escape mechanism, he says. Perhaps they detect pressure waves before earthquakes arrive. Perhaps they detect changes in electric field as fault lines when rock starts to compress. Animals also contain a lot of iron, which is sensitive to magnetism and electric fields. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel if you liked this video, so you may see more interesting and practical ones like it. We appreciate your interest and hope to see you on the next one.